She pointed at me like I was some criminal. "Officer, arrest him right now. He's trespassing." Her voice echoed across my own driveway. The neighbors peeked out from behind their curtains, some already filming on their phones. I didn't say a word. I just stood there with my hands in my pockets, staring at the woman who had slipped 3 fake HOA notices on my gate in the last week. The officer shifted uncomfortably, glancing at me, then at her. "Ma'am, do you live here?" he asked. "Of course not," she snapped. "This land belongs to the HOA. He just showed up here 2 weeks ago claiming it's his. I'm telling you, he broke in. This is an open and shut trespass case. Take him in." I finally moved, slow and calm. "You really want to go down that road?" I asked her. Her face turned red. "You don't get to question me. I'm on the HOA board. I know the law." The way she said it almost made me laugh. I had spent 20 years wearing the black robe that she had no clue about. I looked at the officer and noticed the hesitation in his eyes. He wasn't buying her story, but he didn't want to pick the wrong side either. "Ma'am, I'm going to need some proof that he's not the owner," the officer said, scratching his head. She huffed, pulled out a crumpled paper from her bag, and shoved it at him. "Here, this is the HOA property list. His name isn't on it." I stepped closer and looked at the paper, an outdated list that had been thrown out in court years ago. She was bluffing just like last week when she taped a "Vacate Immediately" sign on my door with the HOA logo she had printed off the internet. "You've got the wrong paperwork," I said, keeping my tone flat. "Maybe you should check the county records before you call someone a trespasser." Her eyes narrowed. "You think you're clever? You think the rules don't apply to you? Well, you're about to find out who's in charge here." I smiled for the first time, just enough for her to notice. She had no idea that the man she was threatening to evict was the very judge who had once signed the order to dissolve their HOA's illegal extension over this land. And I wasn't planning to reveal it yet, not until she dug herself in deeper. The officer handed the paper back, still looking unsure. "Sir, do you have any proof of ownership with you?" "I do, but let's hear her out first. I want to see how far she's willing to go." Her grin widened, like she had already won. "Finally, he admits it. He's stalling. Arrest him before he runs." The officer's hand hovered near his cuffs, and for a brief second, I saw the neighbors' cameras tilt forward, ready to catch what they thought was about to happen. The officer's brow furrowed. "Ma'am, I am the sheriff's deputy," he said quietly. But she didn't even pause. She yanked out her phone, stabbing the screen with her finger like she was dialing the president. "I'll get the sheriff down here. You'll regret hesitating," she hissed at him. I shifted my weight, still calm. "Call whoever you like," I said. My voice was steady, almost bored. "But before you do, you might want to know you're standing 3 feet over the property line. That patch of grass you're on belongs to me." Her head whipped around as if I'd just insulted her family. "That's HOA land. This whole cul-de-sac is HOA land. You're a squatter who found a loophole." I didn't answer. I let her words hang in the air long enough for the neighbors to whisper behind their windows. The deputy cleared his throat. "Sir, maybe you should show me your deed. This is getting complicated." I reached into my jacket slowly, not for the papers yet, but for my phone. "Not yet," I said. "You'll see it soon enough. First, I want you to hear what she's about to tell the sheriff." Her call finally went through. She stepped away a little, her voice dropping to a sharp whisper, but loud enough for all of us to hear. "Yes, I need immediate response. There's a man trespassing on HOA property. He's refusing to leave, and your deputy isn't doing his job." She paused, glaring at the deputy as she added, "You better send someone who can handle it." The deputy's jaw clenched. He didn't like that. I looked at her, smiling just enough. "You just told the sheriff his deputy is incompetent. Bold move."
She ignored me and kept pacing, giving directions to the arriving patrol units. The flashing lights appeared at the far end of the street minutes later, 2 more cruisers pulling up fast, sirens off, but lights cutting through the afternoon sun. The neighbors stepped out now, drawn by the commotion. I heard someone whisper, "Is he really trespassing? He looks too calm." The second patrol car door swung open, and out stepped a man I recognized immediately. Sheriff Daniels. We'd been on opposite sides of the courtroom before, back when I was still presiding. I stayed quiet as he approached, curious if he'd recognize me without the robe. Karen straightened up like she was about to deliver her victory speech. "Sheriff, thank goodness you're here! Arrest this man! He's
Karen's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her face drained of color as the weight of the words settled over the crowd. "Judge! What?" she stammered, her voice cracking. "No, that's impossible. You're lying." The sheriff didn't look amused. "Ma'am, I don't joke about this sort of thing. Judge Miles presided over 3 of my biggest cases last year, and if I'm not mistaken, he signed the order that limits your HOA's authority past the community gate." A ripple of gasps ran through the neighbors. Someone muttered, "I knew something was off about her." Karen shook her head like a child refusing to believe the truth. "You can't just claim to be a judge. You're faking it." I finally opened the folder and held up the document, my property deed stamped with the county seal, right above my own signature from years ago. "This isn't a claim," I said quietly. "This is proof. I bought this land long before your HOA tried to annex it. The court struck that annexation down. I should know. I was the one who signed the ruling." She took a step back as if the paper itself had shoved her. You can't do that. HOA rules still apply here," she shouted, her voice rising again. I stepped closer, keeping my tone calm but sharper now. "The HOA rules stop at the gate. That was the judgment, and it's still on record. You've been trespassing on my property every time you set foot here, and every fake notice you taped to my door, that's tampering with official property, at least 3 misdemeanors." The deputy's eyes widened at that. Daniels crossed his arms, clearly losing patience. "Karen, you're lucky we're not cuffing you right now. You tried to file a false police report. That's a crime, too." Her composure cracked completely. "This isn't fair. He tricked us. He's hiding behind the law." I let out a short laugh. "I'm not hiding behind the law. I am the law on this matter, and you've been abusing everyone with rules you don't even have authority to enforce." The neighbors were no longer hiding behind their curtains. A few had their phones up, recording everything. I caught a glimpse of one man whispering, "This is going viral tonight." Karen's voice shrank as she turned to the sheriff again. "So you're just going to let him stay? You're siding with him over the HOA?" Daniels's answer was firm. "I'm siding with the law. This isn't HOA property, and you're done harassing this man. If I get another call like this, you won't walk away without charges." Her mouth opened to protest, but nothing came out except a sharp breath. The color of anger returned to her cheeks as she pointed at me one last time. "You think you've won, Judge Miles. This isn't over. The board will hear about this." I tilted my head slightly. "Oh, I hope they do, because the next time they try to enforce rules outside their boundary, I'll bring the entire board into court myself, and I don't think they'll like what the verdict will be." That made her freeze. Her glare locked on me for a few seconds before she stormed off to her.
The next morning, I woke up to the sound of footsteps outside my window. Too heavy to be a jogger, too slow to be delivery. When I looked through the blinds, I saw Karen again, this time with 2 men in suits. They were walking the edge of my lawn, pointing at the ground like they were measuring something invisible. I stepped outside before they could get any further. "You're trespassing again," I said flatly. Karen smirked. Not this time. We're here on official HOA business. Meet our board's lawyer and our private inspector. We're reviewing your fence line. We believe your property cuts into the community's easement. The two men avoided my eyes. One of them, the inspector, was holding a tape measure, but no clipboard, no badge, nothing official. I pulled out my phone and started recording. "Great," I said. "Please repeat that into the camera. You're reviewing an easement that was dissolved by court order 6 years ago. I signed that order myself." The lawyer's face paled when I said it. He glanced at Karen as if she hadn't warned him who I was. Miss Fletcher, perhaps we should—" "No," Karen snapped. "He can't scare us with old paperwork. The HOA board voted to reinstate the easement last month. That means it's valid again." I couldn't help but laugh. You can't vote your way out of a court ruling. That's not how the law works. Before I could say more, the lawyer turned to her and whispered something urgent, but Karen ignored him. She planted her hands on her hips. "We'll be back tomorrow with an order to tear down your fence. You're blocking community access." I stopped recording and pocketed my phone. "Come back with that order. I'd love to see which judge you think will sign it." They left in silence, except for Karen's angry muttering as she stomped toward her SUV. That evening, I compiled all the footage. Karen yelling at the deputy, her call to the sheriff, the fake inspector on my lawn, and emailed it to Daniels. He replied within minutes. "This is enough to press harassment and false claim charges. Want me to move forward?" I stared at the screen for a long moment before typing back, "Not yet. Let's give her one last chance to back off." But Karen didn't back off. The following day, I got a letter taped to my door again. This time, not a fake notice, but a typed threat claiming the HOA would start charging me $500 a day for illegally occupying community property. That was the final straw. I drove straight to the courthouse and filed a restraining order against the HOA board for harassment and unlawful attempts to enforce voided rules. Daniels personally served the papers that afternoon. When Karen received the order in front of the board during their evening meeting, witnesses said she went pale, then furious. One of the board members even quit on the spot, saying, "I told you we couldn't win against the judge." The story spread fast. Neighbors posted the video of her yelling for my arrest, and the clip of the sheriff revealed